Good morning, everyone. I am Nina Divina Sanchez from Group 4. As we all know, there are different types of graphs, and one of the most common types of graphs is the broken line graphs. Now, we will discuss what a broken line graph is and how we can use it in a data presentation. What is a broken line graph and how we can use it in a data presentation? So, a broken line graph is where the independent variable is usually a factor of time. Data points are plotted on such a grid and then connected with line segments to give an approximate curve. A broken line graph is a graph that is used when it is necessary to show change over time. A line is used to join the values, but the line has no defined slope.
Broken line graph is a diagram that has horizontal axis divided into units of time and a vertical axis that displays the value of qualitative characteristic studies, in which the data recorded is represented by points that are then connected to one another by segment to form a broken line that illustrates the evolution of the phenomenon under consideration. The broken line graph can be likened to a road graph, in the sense that the segment connected into the vertices of the road. The broken line graph is particularly useful for representing the distribution of the quantitative statistical characteristic. We often use it to illustrate a phenomenon that evolves over time.
To start off, let's begin with the definition of a broken line graph. So a broken line graph is a type of graph that displays data as a series of points connected by straight lines. Now, let's move on to some related terms. So first, we have the data points. Data points are the individual values or measurements that are being plotted on the graph. For example, if we are plotting the temperature over a week, each day's temperature would be a data point. Moving onto the x-axis and y-axis. So the x-axis is the horizontal axis of the graph that shows the range of values for the independent variable, such as time or distance. The y-axis is the vertical axis of the graph that shows the range of values for the dependent variable, such as temperature or sales. Let's now move on to line segments. So line segments are the straight lines that connect the data points on the graph. These lines help to visualize the trend or pattern in the data. So, what is meant by interpolation and extrapolation in the context of broken line graphs? So interpolation involves drawing a line segment between the two adjacent data points and using the position of the point of interest along that line to estimate its value. Interpolation is useful in situations where data points are not available for every point in time or every value on the axis. It allows us to estimate the missing data points and get a more complete picture of the data. So extrapolation, on the other hand, is the process of estimating values outside the range of known data points in the graph. It's important to be careful with extrapolation as it can be less accurate than interpolation. Finally, for trend line, so a trend line is a straight line that represents the overall trend or pattern in the data. It's useful for identifying whether the data is increasing, decreasing, or staying on the same over time.
Steps and procedure. To get the right date, you need to organize the data in a tabular form and present them in a broken line graph. We have 5 steps to manifest this illustration. Step 1. Identify the variables. Independent variable and dependent variable. The independent variable belongs at the x-axis or the horizontal line of the graph, while the dependent variable belongs at the y-axis or the vertical line of the graph. Step 2. Determine the scale. Start with the horizontal scale, the next is the vertical scale. Determine the numerical variable for each unit that best fits the range of each variable. Step 3. Number and label each axis and title the graph. Mark each unit across the horizontal scale and along the vertical scale. Label the mark by the units present.
Step 4. Determine the data points and plot on the graph. Plot a point for each of the values. Connect them from left to right. Step 5. Give the graph a title. The title should indicate what the graph is all about.
Recorded her daily expense at school for a week. She spent 25 pesos on Monday and 30 pesos on Tuesday, 10 pesos on Wednesday, 60 pesos on Thursday, 35 pesos on Friday. Organize the data in the tabular form and present in a broken line graph. Before we make the graph of these data first in tabular form, the title of our table will be Gabi Daily Expensive in School. Since it's daily, we have the first column, which is the day, also Monday, Tuesday, the expenses every day. So Monday would be 25 pesos, Tuesday 30 pesos, Wednesday 10 pesos, Thursday 60 pesos, and Friday 35 pesos. After that, let's put this data in here in a broken line graph. So, how do you produce or construct a broken line graph? Number 1. Draw the line for the x and y axis, so the x-axis would be the days from Monday through Friday. Then, the y-axis would be the amount in pesos when it comes to intervals. It's up to us on what intervals would we choose to include this graph. The interval of the y-axis is 10. The next level x-axis with the days. So here, as you can see, we already label it with the days, then the proper order from Monday to Friday. And for the expenses with 10 as interval, we label the y-axis from 0 to 70, increasing as you go up. So here our label is the amount in pesos, and our interval should be the same, which is by 10, and the next is the plateau point that corresponds to the day and expenses. So if Monday 25, plot is between 20 and 30. So the Tuesday is 30, so plot is aligned with 30, and Wednesday is 10, Thursday is 60, and Friday is 35. So it is between 30 and 40, and lastly we connect the points by a line segment, so we will now connect the accordingly from Monday to Friday. Also, we should never forget to put a little title in our graph. Meanwhile, Gab's sister Karina also recorded her daily expense. As you see, we'll see on the table below. We have now 3 columns in our side. The first is the first day, the second is for Gab, the third is for Karina. So we will compare their expenses Monday to Friday, show the graph for their graph. We will just copy the graph for semantics and plot the points that correspond to Karina's data expense and draw the line segment to it, and preferably in order to another color. In addition, there must be a legend to which segments belong to Gab and Karen for proper identification.
Now, let's compare Gab and Karina graph of expenses by referring to the graph. And let us answer this question. So number 1, what is the title of the graph? The title of our graph is Gab and Karina daily expenses in school. Number 2, what does the sale on y-axis represent? So the sales on y-axis represent the amount of their daily expenses. For question number 3, on which day were Karina expenses greater than Gab's? So as you can see in the graph, the orange is higher than the blue on Wednesday, and orange represents Karina, so it's basically Wednesday. Last question number 4. What is the difference between their expenses on Friday? Difference means we will accept travel. So on Friday we have 30, 35 and 30 is 5. So the difference between your expenses on Friday is 5 pesos.
Is our sample problem number 2. Maria recorded her weight in kilograms for 5 months. Her weight was 49 kilograms in January, 54 kilograms in February, 61 kilograms in March, 69 kilograms in April, and 73 kilograms in May. Organize the data in a tabular form and present them in a broken line graph. So again, before we make the graph that is organized, please put the data first in a tabular form, like this. So the title for our table here will be Maria's weight. The first column would be the month starting from January until May, while the second column would be the weight in kilograms. So in January, we have 49 kilograms, February 54 kilograms, March 61 kilograms, April 60 kilograms, and May 73 kilograms. And after that, we can now plot this data in a broken line graph. So this is the graph of some suits for 5 months. As you can see, in the x-axis, you have here for the months of January to May. The y-axis is the weight in kilograms, each with an interval of 16. Here, we have already plotted the points of each corresponding data point and connected them accordingly from January until May. That will be all. Thank you.
Now, let's answer the following question by referring to graphs. Number 1. What is the title of the graph? The title of the graph is Maria weight. Number 2. What is the range of the value of horizontal sales? The range of the value on the horizontal sales is from January to May. Number 3. What is the range of values on vertical sales? The range of value on vertical sales is 0 to 80. Number 4. How many points are in the graph? There are 5 points in the graph. Number 5. What is the highest value recorded? The highest value recorded is 73 kilograms. Number 6. What was the lowest value recorded? The lowest value recorded is 49 kilograms. And lastly, number 7. Did Maria weight increase or decrease over time? The answer is that sum of weight increase each month, as we can see in the graph. And that will be all for the example problem.
So in conclusion, a broken line graph are constructed with a dependent data on the vertical y-axis and the independent data on the horizontal x-axis. A broken line graph is important to demonstrate changes over time. However, a broken line graph in which time is typically the independent variable. It is the most typical type of graph. Line graphs are valuable because they clearly display data, variables, and patterns, and they can help make predictions about the outcomes of data that has not yet been recorded. Usually, a broken line graph is given to you, and you must interpret the given information from the graph.